Yeah.
All right, Mr. Rich, take it away, sir.
Good afternoon and good evening, everybody. It's Rich Gurman with my amazing guest today, Mr. Alan Davidson. I'm going to do a very quick little intro of this training, and then, Alan, I'm going to hand it right over to you. And the reason is I think most everybody listening in knows who you are. So just everybody, so we're clear, the only people listening right now are members of ours in the JV Insider Circle. As you guys remember, last month, Alan was our guest on our member-only monthly call, and essentially we ran out of time. Alan had so much to share, and we decided to do this kind of next-level private mastermind. So it's just for all of our members. So I want to welcome everybody. I thank you for being here. Quick on Alan, as you recall, or maybe you missed that call and just got the invite for this one. Alan is a product launch manager. He's probably the best in the business. He's a direct protege of Jeff Walker, who created the product launch formula. Alan's done over 52 launches, which it's amazing he still has all of his hair. And he's the best in the business. He did my launch, and quite honestly, my intention today is to hand it over to Alan, and I'm going to listen in just like all of you are listening in and take notes and learn a lot. Alan, I'm going to let you lead. If there's somewhere where I feel I need to chime in or ask a question, I will do that, but for the most part, I will be in learning mode with you today. Obviously, I've done multiple launches. We've done 3 launches in a row, we being Milana and myself, and each one has done over $500,000, so I definitely can impart some wisdom, but Alan's the master, and I'm excited to learn from him. Our topic, as you can hopefully see if you're looking on the webcast, I love the beautiful graphic of the Buddha, by the way, is Enlightening Product Launches, and I think it's a perfect tie-in to what we are all doing together in the JV Insider Circle. And Alan, I know you have a lot to cover, so with no further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you to begin and share anything else that you want to as we start today.
All right, great. Well, Rich, it's always just a privilege and a pleasure to be with you and certainly to speak to your community. And just the idea of having 90 minutes of your precious time and attention when I know you could be out on the ocean dancing with the dolphins and the whales, I feel honored that you're joining us, so thank you.
My pleasure.
So I'm just going to dive right in, everybody. And I just want to say welcome to all the enlightening entrepreneurs that joined us. There's 130 of you guys, the JV Insider Circle community, that have raised your hand and say, hey, I want to know more about enlightening product launches. And so specifically, I just want to welcome the enlightening people who are running enlightening businesses and using enlightening marketing. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that in a few minutes. But I believe, Jeff Walker, my mentor, says that the future of all humanity is entrepreneurship, and I believe that is true. But what I really know in my heart of hearts is those people who are using the spiritual principles to run their lives and their businesses are going to have an exponential impact on their corner of the world that's going to really help bring a world transformation even sooner. So what are the best practices for your business and the best practices for your marketing that are in alignment with how you want to live your spiritual life? So welcome. When I first found my way to the digital world and online marketing in 2006, I very quickly heard about this guy, Jeff Walker, and I would later learn his brother John. They're partners in the business together, and Jeff is the creator of the product launch formula. And there was just all this buzz about product launches, and the buzz was that with a product launch, you could have 6 figures in 6 days, or a year's worth of sales in 1 week, or you could add, 5,000, 10,000, 45,000, 50,000, 70,000, even 100,000 new subscribers to your list in a couple of weeks with a very successful product launch. And on top of, the sales and growing your list, there was all this buzz about you and your business and the authority and the positioning that all of a sudden you had, not only in your particular niche, but in the general world that now knew about you. And from that place, you could attract enlightened alliances, affiliates, JV partners, people that would continue to support you in your business. So I promised a lot of very specific things that I'm going to answer for you for your time and attention for being here. But in the big picture of our time together, I want to cover three things. What is specifically a product launch? What makes a launch enlightening, and why would you want one? You know, and allow you to see behind the curtain of the 52 plus launches I have designed and managed, as Rich so graciously said. So who am I? Just a few things. Designed and managed 52 launches. I've been studying hardcore direct response marketing since 2006. I joined the Glazer Kennedy Inner Circle here in Houston in 2007, and I was named Marketer of the Year for that. I have been managing and designing launches full-time for 5 years now, and the launches that I have designed, as best as I can track, have added at least 700,000 new subscribers to my clients list, and collectively we've had over 4 million in sales. And you know, I'm just at the peak of my skills and my talents now, and to work with me for a VIP intensive is $24,000 investment, and people know how to monetize that. The level of clients that I'm working with know how to take that 24K and add another $300,000 to a launch, or add another 30,000 subscribers to their list, and they know how to monetize that. So for them, it's a simple no-brainer investment. These are just a couple of the clients that I've had the privilege to work for. David Nagel, I did his Art of Success launch. For Lisa Sasevich this year. In March, I did her Speak to Sell launch. Suzanne Evans, I had the privilege to work with her and help design her New York Times best-selling book launch, How You Do Anything, How You Do Everything. I've had the great privilege to work with Jack Canfield and Pamela Bruner, tapping into ultimate success. Margaret Lynch and I, you know, you talk about 52 launches. Well, half of them have been with Margaret, and you know, we probably launched 7 levels of wealth manifestation 20 times at this point in 4 years, plus her Tapping into Wealth Coaches program and her book Tapping into Wealth, which was an Amazon bestseller. And then there's this handsome guy right here in the middle, Mr. Rich Gurman. We did his Monetize Your Passion. Brian Horn to the right. Christine Kane. I've done several launch strategies around several of her programs. Stephen Russell and the Barefoot Doctor, and some of you guys might even know Jan Stringer and Alan Higman because they're members of the JV Insider Group, and I got to hang out with them in December when I was with you guys at the last live event. So those are just some of the clients that I've had the privilege to work for. But it was not always, shall we say, I knew you'd get a kick out of this.
I have not seen this one. I thought I knew it all. Oh, my God.
Honey, you do not know it all, and you count your blessings for that.
I don't know if I want to.
But I moved to Houston in 1980 to be bartender to the Fabulous, and you know, quickly immediately found work in the nightclub industry. And I like to say that we were fabulous. In a long holiday weekend here in Houston, we'd have more fun than the entire state of Oklahoma would have in a year, which is not that difficult to do. No offense to my friends north of the border here. But this was, you know, the early 80s, and unfortunately that kind of fun came with a cost. It came with a very high price. And for me and my group and my community, that price was HIV/AIDS. And I had been a drug user for over 6 years, actually. And I saw many flashing highs and many crashing lows in that 6 years. But when we found out that AIDS was actually caused by a virus, I just assumed that I would die a very lonely and painful and grueling death because I had shared needles with men who had already died from AIDS. But in 1988, I got clean and sober, and began to see glimmers of hope. And I happened to live with a medical doctor whose expertise was HIV/AIDS. And he kept saying to me, Alan, I think you might be negative because you're so healthy. And he would just say that every month. He would say, I think you might be negative. You're just too healthy. And so after 6 months of sobriety and listening to Dr. Wayne, I went and got my first HIV test. And I remember sitting in that clinic waiting for the news that I might die and feeling the pain and the fear saturated in those walls of all the other men who had sat in those chairs. And miraculously, I was negative. I still am HIV negative, even though I had played Russian roulette with my life. And I felt that day that Providence, Spirit, the universe, God, Gada, Allah, whatever you care to call the divine, had placed her hand on my shoulders and spared me for something. And I left the Montrose Clinic that day vowing that I would quit squandering my talents and my skills, and that I would use them and to make a difference in my own life and in the community that was so ravaged at that time. And 6 months later, I found myself in massage school. And that was really the big turnaround where I began my massive healing. And I've been a body worker for 26 years. I still do one massage a month. My favorite client, long-term client, he's been coming to me for over 14 years. I still see him once a month. In the day, I was making $90,000 a year as a massage therapist, very successful for a body worker. I taught massage for 10 years in conjunction with Tai Chi, yoga, meditation. I really took to the spiritual path, the alternative healing and spiritual path. And then in 2006, I wrote this book, Body Brilliance, and in 2007 we launched it, and it became the #1 health and wellness book. It was number 17 on Barnes & Noble's top 100 books, and it won 2 National Book of the Year awards, and I'm proud to say a copy of it graces Mr. Rich Gurman's coffee table. So very proud of that, and that was my first product launch, was reverse engineering and figuring out how to launch a book. And even though I had run a very successful massage therapy clinic and practice for many years, online marketing, book marketing was a very different animal, and I had to go back to the basics. In the meantime, I have since midwifed this very weird kind of meditation called Enlightened Tapping Meditation. The Huffington Post really just wrote an article about me in this particular meditation. It's so powerful and profound. And I just want you to notice my bold promise, because you ought to have a bold promise for your product. In 40 minutes, someone who has never meditated before in their life can experience the same stillness that the Dalai Lama experiences during his daily meditation. Now, I can say that because I've facilitated over 1,000 people in this kind of meditation, and it's worked 100% so far. But you need to start thinking, what's the bold promise for your business, for your particular product and program? And, I stumbled my way into becoming a product launch manager. I heard when Jeff Walker said, we're going to train a handful of people to be managers to really master the product launch formula. I raised my hand and said, I want what this man has. I want the benefits of a launch for myself, and I want the confidence that he has, that he could go anywhere in the world with $100 in his pocket and start a brand new business that would be at, mid 6 figures to 7 figures within a year. I was like, okay, I want that confidence. And I've had the pleasure and privilege of studying with Jeff and John Walker now for 5 years. But before you start thinking, who's this woo-woo wingnut that Rich has invited to the conversation? Now, I know most of you guys think you're chuckling to yourself there, Rich.
I'm thinking the same thing.
Well, good. Well, there is some substance here. It's all not going to be woo-woo stuff, even though I'm going to talk about things like, enlightening launches and divine audiences and stuff like that. I promise you that there's some real meat and substance in this training here. And, even if you never getting around to launching your product in the classic PLF, launch, there's a lot of meat in what I'm going to share with you today. So hang on and take some notes and get ready. So here's what I promised in the email and the sign-up form that you're going to take away from specifically. The number one thing your launch must do to engage your audience. How to design your launch to serve the highest levels of your business and to speak to all the audience levels, your audience at the different levels of your business. The 5 elements of a viral launch video, the 5 stages of every successful product launch, the number one thing that can ruin your launch if you're not careful, and how to use urgency with integrity during your launch, and then the 3 assets you must have in place to even consider a launch. So we're going to cover all those points in our time today, so thank you for that. I'm going to give you, for the next 75 minutes, my absolute best, and I'm happy to do that. I have so much respect for what Rich and Milana have created and what they're doing and where you are in your business, and I want to have the chance to give back to you some of the things that I've learned. And of course, I can only give you so much in 75 minutes, and for those that would like to go a little further and study deeper with me, there'll be an invitation at that time. So what is a product launch? I want you to think back to when Apple released the iPhone, and Steve Jobs announced it in Las Vegas at a meeting of a high-tech community and bloggers, and by the time it actually went on sale 90 days later at Apple stores, there were people camping out for days ahead of time to be the very first to own an iPhone. So that's a example of a physical brick and mortar product launch. When you get ready to launch your next product, would you love to have people waiting in line to have that, to get your product and your service and demand a piece of you, and to be able to step out into the throngs and say, hey, look, I got it. And so most of us are online marketers here, and so I'm going to explain to you exactly what I mean by an online product launch, and it's the classic product launch formula as taught by Jeff Walker here. But I want to say, what do I mean by what is enlightening first? And it's the idea that there are universal principles that rule the universe. Now, whether you take a Western approach to that, and it's the universal laws that are talked about in Think and Grow Rich with Napoleon Hill and his laws of success that he talked about there, or whether they're, more classic religious laws, or if you study Eastern Enlightenment or Eastern spiritual meditation traditions, what are those spiritual laws? So it's just anybody who really is using these universal laws to make a difference in their own personal life, and they want to run their business and their marketing from that sort of heart space, spiritual space. The other thing that I would say is an important distinction in what is enlightening is that there is something about transcending yourself. We're all born, we all live in 3-dimensional time and space, and we are all often limited by our own paradigms of thinking and behavior and our past and our fears. And so there is some practice about how do I transcend that? How do I expand my little self, my little mind, and how do I uplift others in doing that? And I don't think I'm alone in this position. I expect a lot of people on this call really know what I'm talking about. And I just want to quote Albert Einstein, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. And so when I say transcend yourself, most of our problems and limitations are created by ourselves. And using these universal principles allows us to step and to claim more for ourselves, to have more success, more power, more impact, more sales, more money, more freedom, more time on your paddleboard and with the dolphins and the whales. So, it is that practice of transcending yourself and your limited thinking. Okay, so what makes a product launch enlightening? When I very first heard what the product launch formula was, that prescription for sales, that RX for sales, it really comes down to a very simple formula. Give value, give value, give value, and then ask for a sale, make an offer. So if you have ever woken up and gone to your inbox, your Outlook, and all of a sudden you've got 10 different emails with the same variation of a subject line and the same variation of an email about this brand new fabulous video or this training or this report or this book that you must read, you must have. And all these different people are pointing you in the same direction. That's a classic Jeff Walker product launch formula. And it's usually 3 videos. It can be a report, it can be a book, it can be a series of videos, but they all give you value. And they all have the opportunity to make a difference in your life. And I'm going to give you, as I said, the 5 things of a viral video a little later, what you weave into each of these value offerings. And then at the end of that, you say, hey, listen, I've given you this great stuff for free. You've had an experience. Would you like to invest? Would you like to go deeper with me? And when I first heard that from Jeff, I knew that it would work very well in the spiritual community. I work with a lot of yoga teachers, meditators, massage therapists, Nia dance teachers. So I knew that this would work and translate well to a spiritual community. I cut my teeth on Dan Kennedy, who's a pretty hardcore direct response marketer. He's a fracking genius. But I had to translate everything he said for my particular list and community. So I knew when I think of an enlightening product launch, it's this giving value, giving value, giving value. And again, it is using those universal principles and helping people be uplifted in their life, whether they buy something from you or not. You've helped make an impact for all those people who've at least opted in and watched one of your videos. They've had an experience, they've had an exercise that will help them make a difference in their life. So why a product launch? Well, one is the money. You really can have 6 figures in 6 days if you have a successful launch. Rich just said, okay, we've done 3 launches that have been at least $500,000 for each of those launches. Now, in your heart of hearts, don't you wish that you could have a sale like that in 6 days you could have $500,000? Think about all the new customers and all the new subscribers on your email list. Think about happy affiliate partners. And the better your numbers are, the better your sales are, the better your conversions are. I promise you, affiliates will line up to support you. And then you get to start to choose who are the enlightened alliances, who are the people that are a win-win-win for me and my subscribers, and that you're a win-win-win for their business and their offerings and their subscribers. So, the more impact you have and the more success you have, you not only get to be, you have to be very deliberate about the people you start to partner with. And then all of a sudden there's so much buzz around you and your brand and the level of authority and positioning that you get from a product launch. There's just not one other sort of marketing technique that's going to give you all of those things simultaneously in a very short amount of time. So, what are the 5 stages of every successful product launch? I'm going to go over all 5 for you, but I'm going to actually spend a lot of time today on number 1, the countdown to a launch, because I think it is so important, and I think that everybody that listens to this training could take something very, very important away, and it would impact your business. And it is, and here's an example of that. When I did my VIP day for Lisa Sasevich in her Speak to Sell program, the messaging that we did, we drilled really, really deep. Now, she had launched Speak to Sell a number of times. She had a $5 million annual business before I went to work with her and her team, and very, very successful. And her comment about this these questions I'm going to show you today and diving deep into them. She said the messaging that we had during the Speak to Sell VIP not only impacted the launch, but impacted her entire business. So there's some real meat and potatoes here for you, as light and fluffy and simple as it may sound. If you keep asking these questions deeply, you are going to get some great messaging that you can use in your product. So when I think about the countdown to your launch, there's sort of four things that you have to, dot I's and cross T's with. One is one, approach your launch from a very high level of strategy. Then you have to nail the launch story and what I call story selling. And then there are the psychological triggers, the persuasion triggers that help people in the sales and conversion process. And then there's the sequences, whether it's 3 videos or your report or your free book or whatever you give away, whatever you engage people in, it's how you get them to raise their hand and accept your offer. So here's an important question that serves me very, very well, and I ask it a lot of my clients. I ask it for myself. And Carl Jung used to say, when faced with a choice, what is your decision in service to? And the way that I like to frame that is when it's in service to what? When you have a choice, it's in service to what? Now, specifically, he was talking to, the inner psychology. Is it in service to your complexes, your defenses, your wounds, your character flaws, or is this choice in service to your self-actualization, your realization, your enlightenment? And so that's an important question that you can always ask about any choice that faces you. But I think it's a very important question to ask for your business. And if you're about to invest a lot of time and energy and attention into your a launch for your business, it's like, what is this in service to outside of just the money, outside of just the new subscribers? Because if you have the highest vision of your business in mind when you design a launch, then you're going to get so much more bang out of your buck. It's incredible leverage for you. So here is and for everybody that's watching and listening, I'm going to give you the slides in addition to the replay of this webinar, so you'll have this, so you can really study the graphic here. But this is my design, the Enlightening Expert Ascension Model. And so everybody on this call, I believe, is an expert in something, and you've got a signature program or product that you want to sell. That should be the thing that you're designing your launch around. First and foremost is how to sell your signature program, whatever you call that, your home study course, your basic foundational training. It's where people get the basic introduction to your philosophy and the foundation of your work. But most people, they have the idea that they want to have a membership site, that they want to have higher priced advanced level trainings. Some people even want to do certifications, train the trainer sort of things. There's also a higher level of, masterminds or small live events or high dollar but small group training, or even one-to-one VIP days like I do with my clients, that are very expensive. And the higher you go, the higher you ascend in the model, the more you charge. The more access they have to you and your brilliance, the more they pay for that privilege. So when you're designing your product launch, you need to think in terms of, okay, I not only want to get sales for my signature program, but how is this positioning to move all my new buyers and subscribers to higher and higher levels with me? And so keep that in mind. Most of the time when I talk to sort of the people that I consider newbies that are starting, they're frustrated, they're eager, they're even desperate because they want to need the sales and they want to grow their list. And I think that's all fine and good, and it's very important to be able to do those things, but have a clear sense of what is the biggest picture and model of your business that you know and you want to create, even if it's in your imagination right now. And when you take on something like any kind of major promotion, any kind of traffic uh, uh, process. Facebook ads is the big thing right now. Well, if you're going to invest in a Facebook ad campaign, you need to know in what is in service to. You're making immediate sales, yes, but then how do you then move people up to the biggest thing? And that's sort of one of the big mistakes I see a lot of people make. They're thinking too small. They're not thinking too in the biggest terms for what their business could be, and then how a launch can serve them and position them to move people up that ascension model to higher offerings. And so I'm going to give you a little example of how you speak to your domain audience, the ones that are perfect for your signature product and ones that might be perfect for, a $5,000 investment, come spend 3 days with you at your home or on the beach or on the paddleboard with you. So how do you speak to both of those simultaneously? Because obviously it's your signature product. The price range for your signature product can be anywhere from $97 all the way to $2,000, $19.97, something like that. People pay for proof. So the more proof you can demonstrate and the success of your program and product, the more you are able to charge for it. But how do you begin to speak directly to those folks? And so here's a little thing that I do. I think in terms of, if you look at the yellow on the Ascension model, that's your signature program. It's like, who are the people who have bought that program in the past, use the exercises and the techniques that you taught in that program, and had dramatic, amazing results. So, you definitely want to speak to the perfect customer for that particular program. And if you already have upper level advanced trainings, if you already have an upper tier, a second tier level of offerings, then who are the people who came in at that signature program and then moved all the way up the ascension? And let me give you an example of that when I was working with Lisa Sasevich. As we began our day, I said, I want you to think about a man and a woman who came in at the Speak to Sell, creating their signature talk, but then stepped up and invested in SASSYs, diamond level as well as just platinum level SASSYs. So we ended up with 4 people, 2 men and 2 women, who had come in through Speak to Sell, and we wrote their names and just talked about them a little bit. And we designed all the messaging around speaking to those people, who they were before the training, the success they had, and then the success after they'd invested in the highest level with Lisa. And so here's an example of 2 of my clients personally. That's Margaret Lynch on the left, and she is not only is one of my favorite clients within my meditation work, but she's also in my launch work, and we've done a tremendous amount. And she's, done VIP days with me. She sent, her employees to my intimate training. She has me to her platinum group to share my enlightened tapping meditation because it's so profound. And the guy on the right is Joe Hirsch, and he is an ambassador for my enlightened tapping meditation. And he actually told the Huffington Post recently a phrase that I had never heard or never thought of, and he says that Alan's meditation program is enlightenment at your fingertips. And I'm like, that is the new phrase to describe my work. So that's that. So here's the trick. When you are designing your messaging for a signature program, take a photograph of your favorite man and your favorite woman that has succeeded at your program. Design your messaging for them. Ask these questions about who they were when they started and who they are now that they've completed. And I put these photographs. So when I'm writing an email, I write to Margaret and I write to Joe. So it becomes a very conversational, simple thing. I'm talking to 2 of my best friends, period. And when I do that, I notice There's no hypiness. There's no forced quality to the writing. It's a simple written conversation to my two dear friends. And then I broadcast that to my subscribers, and everybody feels like I'm talking to them. So this is the tip that I want to give you for speaking to people at all the levels of your ascension model. Take actual photographs of people that you love that came in at the product you want to sell, and they ascended to different higher levels. And so do that, and it will make a huge difference in your messaging. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to cover in the countdown to launch, phase number 1 of your launch, is story selling, and it's crafting the story of your launch. And this is the number one thing that you have to do to engage your audience. You have to tell a story. And if you look at all the great teachers, the great salesmen, the great businessmen in the world, they are excellent storytellers. For those of you that were at JVX last year, and when Rich got up and talked about doing the launch and raising the money for the charity, the Generation Y charity, and then he told the story of the young woman who that money had helped and the transformation that she had, and brought that young woman onto the stage, and in a few words she was able to share the impact of Rich's work. I don't remember a dry eye in the house or a closed heart in the house, because Rich is an amazing storyteller. So learning to tell good stories is vital in any promotion, any campaign, any sales process. So the better you get at it, the better your results are going to be. And so crafting a great launch story is essential to engaging people through 1, 2, 3 videos, and then, a webinar if you want to open your cart. If you've got a coach-a-thon to close your cart, you've got to be telling a really great story to keep people engaged over a 2-week period, and opening your emails and watching your videos and showing up and really considering the investment with your time and attention. So, nailing your story is the number one thing to a really successful launch. And so I'm going to tell you the 4 elements of that that I think that you can take away. And if you will spend the time to write down these questions and spend the time to answer them, then it's going to have a great effect on your messaging, and you're going to be able to start to speak to your divine audience or your perfect customers in a whole new way. And there'll be such clarity and presence in the way you speak of yourself and your product and the transformation you offer that people get it really quickly. Oh, it's like, this can really help me. Okay, so the 4 qualities of a really good launch story is your hero's journey, your own personal creation myth, your own hero's journey, the transformation you provide for your clients and your ability to articulate that really well, your case studies, who are your dramatic case studies that have had amazing success with your work, and then finally your big why. So I'm going to just take you through those step by step, and I'm going to see if I can remember Rich's story enough to sort of craft a hero's journey around it. So Joseph Campbell is the mythologist who sort of brought us to the hero's journey. And all the great myths and stories in time and history sort of follow this process. But certainly all the great movies that we watch, whether it's the Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, whether it's Neo in the Matrix, whether it is Harry in the Harry Potter series, or if it is Frodo in Lord of the Rings. They all follow this basic structure. And if you begin to look at the great businessmen and the great salesmen, they also tell a very similar story. And, if I can remember, Rich, I'm doing this off the top of my head. So there's the call. And there was a point when Rich was living in Central Florida, and he was incredibly successful. He had a massively successful real estate business, married, big house, everything you could expect. But there was something inside of him, in his heart of hearts, in his soul, that said, I'm not happy. This isn't fulfilling me. This isn't satisfying me. And he pushed that aside. He rejected the call and, kept on doing what he was doing until he reached a point when he said, oh my God, I cannot do this anymore. I'm moving to Key West. And took up and created a new life in Key West, and created a whole new business and opportunity for himself. And now usually this is the point in the story where you get a mentor that sort of helps you transform. And I know Rich talks about studying with some different meditation teachers. But then here comes the new challenge, and that was that hurricane that completely wiped out everything he owned in Key West. And so now his dream of moving to California was, okay, that's the point of no return. I'm going to California. I'm not looking back, and I'm going to build a life that I love. Damn it. And was able to survive the setback of a hurricane and come to this breakthrough that set him on the path to writing his books, creating his partnership with his sister, now his partnership with Milana, and this is his new normal. And so we see him on Facebook with all these amazing pictures and videos of fish and birds and dolphins and whales, and the lifestyle that he's chosen for himself and the way he supports that. So that's his hero's journey in a nutshell. Rich, did I do any justice to that?
You got it all perfect, except I was in South Florida, not Central.
Okay,
Minor detail, but you got the meat of it for sure.
Okay, great. So you begin to think about what is your hero's journey, and how did you begin to create the product, the signature product that you now offer? What were your frustrations, your despair? What were the challenges that you had? What were your own doubts and insecurities? And then what did you have to break through over and over and over to get to the place of success that you have now? Knowing that most people are going to have similar doubts and insecurities and frustrations, and that limited mindset that keep it from there. So, mapping this out for yourself and getting really clear. What is your hero's journey? How are you like Neo? How are you like Frodo? How are you like Katniss Everdeen? How are you like Harry Potter? And when you learn to tell the trials and tribulations, the ups and the downs and the successes, and you weave them dramatically together, you engage your client. So that's first and foremost. And of course, you can take weeks and weeks to dissect this and create it and journal about it and begin to look, here's the solution, here was the problem, okay, I've solved a problem, what's the next solution? And it's back and forth, and then you've got your 6, 7, 8 modules of your home study course. All right, now here's the next thing. What's the transformation you promise? It is the more you can articulate this clearly, it's the end in mind. Stephen Covey said, always begin with the end in mind. And I love this because most people don't care about the journey. You've had the hero's journey. You've created the process, and most people get hung up. They want to talk about my fabulous process. Oh, I do EFT tapping. I do matrix reprinting. I do deep meditation. I teach so-and-so yoga. People don't necessarily care about all that. What they care about is who they're going to be at the end of the home study course that you sell them. What's the transformation you promise them? So here's a real simple recipe that I found to start to articulate that. It's like, I help blank to be, do, accomplish blank so that they can blank. And I'll give you a minute to write that down. And when you can say that, and I'll tell you, you think this is a simple question. I fiddled and massaged and played with this question for a couple of years before I nailed the answer that just sent electricity through my body when I answered it. And I remember that I was actually with Rich at Marcia Weeder's event a couple of years ago, Wealthy Visionary Conference, and I was just sitting in the back, fiddling and fiddling, kept asking that question, how do I say this? What's the wordsmithing that makes the difference for me? There's a wonderful quote from Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain, that I want to share with you, and it's like, the difference between the wrong word and the right word is often like the difference between a lightning bug and lightning. So, playing with the words and getting them right is perfect. And one of the little tips that I use is that once I get the wording on this, I actually go to the mirror and look in my left eye as an affirmation. And I just say it over and over and over and let the words tumble and let the words change until they just sort of lock into place. And that's when that electricity moves through my body. So let me give you an example of the transformation you promise. Here's the way that works for me. I help people on a spiritual path to embody their spiritual enlightenment so that together we can midwife an extraordinary new now, a now that lets each of us celebrate our health, our happiness, and our prosperity. So if you can do that, this is going to help you so much. It's an elevator speech, but it's also essential when you get to creating your product offer. So if you know that you're speaking to the I help, your divine audience, the right people, to help them do what, so that they can have the result that they're hungry for, looking for, longing for, and willing to pay for. So if you can answer that and say that articulately, and when I say this from the audience, together that we can midwife an extraordinary new now, people gasp in the audience. People go, oh, when they hear that. Because, one, they know it to be true. It's in total congruence and alignment with my spirit, but it's those electrical combination of words. So when you pull that for yourself, it's incredibly helpful. Okay, so case studies. Jeff Walker has said from the very beginning, and it took me a long time to really crack the code on this, but he says no proof, no launch. And what he means by that, if you're trying to sell a signature product, a home study course, a training of some kind, and you don't have case studies, dramatic people that have had results from your process, you're going to have a very, very difficult time selling it. So the better your case studies, the more dramatic they are, the easier it is for you to sell. So here's the 4 questions that I recommend you survey your buyers, your customers, and you ask them these simple questions. Who were you before you met me or you invested in this program? What are the specific and measurable results that you got from the training? And I want to hang out and talk about specific and measurable. If you look at most testimonials on people's sales pages, they'll say, oh, you're fabulous. Oh, the training was extraordinary. They're vague. And yes, it shows goodwill and good feeling. But if you can take it to the next level, gee, I invested in this program and, my credit cards were overdrawn. I had no money. But after 30 days of the exercises and the principles and the techniques that I learned in this program, I was actually able to make $1,000 in sales. Or, when I bought this program, I was at a 22% body fat rate, and I knew that I wanted to drop it by 7%. Just after 30 days, I had lost 2% of my body fat, and now know I'm well on my way to being at that 15% goal that I had for myself. You want as specific and measurable as you can get, in addition to the feel-good, fun stuff that happened for them along the way. But it's the specifics and the measurable with your training that, one, open your eyes to, wow, I never expected that my product would have this particular impact in somebody. but as well as to show your potential buyers what's available to them. And you've got documented proof. Then I always like to ask, what is the exercise, the insight, the module in the training that gave you the biggest aha? What was the big surprise for you? What was the real surprising breakthrough for you? And again, that's often great for you to know. Now, if you're not surveying your clients, you're just relying on the people who are going to come and share things with you, and that's wonderful. But if you do a real proper, thorough survey, you start to get a sense of, wow, look at all these different things that are happening. And wow, module number 4 is the real big transformational piece for people. Or that's where people have the most challenge and they need the most support. So, knowing that is very helpful, and particularly in your designing your launch, knowing the exercises that give people a big bang and a big immediate result, you can use those exercises in your pre-launch content. And so it helps you sort of choose and decide where people that are just getting to know you are going to have a dramatic bang, and they go, wow, this person really knows what the heck they're talking about. And then the fourth and final question is, who are you now? And it's like, what's the difference in your life? Now that you invested in the opportunity available to you, you got the transformation that was promised, how is your life different, better, more? And so, again, I've from the very beginning as a product launch manager, had all my clients survey and come back to me with the answers to these questions. And I would simply just either sit down and listen and transcribe myself, or have the interviews transcribed. And I would just pull out phrases and sentences that the clients used describing the work and the breakthrough they had. And I would use their very own words. Well, in the old days, I used to write all the copy for my launches. And, my clients would go, you're a fracking genius. This wording is amazing. It's like, well, here's the little trick. All I did was use the words of your clients and the breakthrough that they had. So a lot of your copy can and will be written for you if you will just survey or interview your most successful clients and let them tell you their experience and what they got out of your work. Okay, so this is really important, and it's your big why. And it's, why are you here? Why do you do anything? And there's a book called by Simon Sinek. There's a great video that you can find. It's a TED Talk, I believe, called Why. And he also has a book now based on the success of that talk. And it's really why the companies, the major corporations that lead with why they do anything are more successful in selling. Because people are investing in a movement. They're investing in a cause and a purpose. And it's not just about the short-term goals that they're going to get from buying your program. They do get those, but you're helping point the way to something bigger and more. And so I want to take you through my own personal big why, and then I want you to take some notes and ask, why are you here? Why, you can ask it, why did my soul incarnate at this particular time? Or you can just go, what gets me up in the morning? What turns me on in my day? What is it about my life that just gives me and feeds me and nourishes me and uplifts me? So however you choose to frame it is like, what is the why that's driving how you do everything? So the way that I approach this is I spend a lot of time looking at what are the number one crises facing the world today. And I read the New York Times every day. And one, I think it's important for me as a spiritual person to be connected to what's happening to our brothers and sisters in the world and around the world. No matter how biased or negative that may seem. But reading the paper, it does not take much to realize that still there are a lot of places in the world that are destroying the environment. The air is polluted, the water is polluted, the land is polluted. Or is the number one crisis facing our world, is it just the destruction of our beautiful, pristine lands, water, and sky that we still have? Or our ancestral indigenous people that are very slowly dying off, their languages are being lost, their culture is being lost? Or to quote Forbes magazine in January 2014, 85 people in the world have as much wealth as the lowest 3.5 billion people in the world. Now, I'm not one of those 99 percenters. I'm a 100%er. I think we're all in this together. And so this incredible distribution, unequal distribution of wealth in our world, it is definitely a crisis. So it's like, how do we take those lowest 3.5 billion and empower them as entrepreneurs and help them with the basic needs of food, water, survival, safety, and give them the skills to succeed in this world so that they too can help to raise themselves, their family up, as well as the rest of the world. And then the number one, is the number one crisis facing the world just the lack of safety, education, and democratic rights across the world? The picture on the left is the Nigerian girls who were sitting in school one day and they were actually kidnapped, and the entire school was taken to another country. Or the girl on the right, Malala, was the girl in Afghanistan who insisted and stood up for the right to be educated as a woman and as a Muslim girl, the right to be educated. And some members of the Taliban stopped her bus and shot her in the head, and she survived and lives and still speaks eloquently about the rights of women in Afghanistan. And for myself, I know firsthand. I mentioned that I lived through the AIDS epidemic, but what I did not tell you is that in those days there were about 50 of us that traveled in a pack. We had so much fun. We went to parties, we went to concerts and plays and architectural openings and art openings and dances and bars, and we just hung out together for years. There was about 50 of us. And during the mid to late 80s, a lot of those guys started to get sick and to die. And there was if you've had the chance to see the Dallas Buyers Club, you get a sense of the ignorance and the fear and just how poisonous it was at that time. There's also a new show on HBO called, I've got absolutely blank, The Normal Heart, which also shows from more the gay perspective what it was like to live at ground zero in the AIDS epidemic in New York City. But I remember so many people were sick. There was so much ignorance. There was so much fear. There was so many people dying. But our government wasn't doing very much at all. And I remember in 1985, Ronald Reagan mentioned HIV/AIDS for the very first time and said, we're going to invest and we're going to get to the bottom of this. But then about 4 months later, it became clear he submitted the 1986 budget to Congress, and it actually cut AIDS spending by 11%. So there was our government, there was our president who turned their back on us completely. And then there were the spiritual leaders of the time who said, gays they should quarantine them, let them die off, they get what they deserve. It's the Lord's will. And so here were our political leaders and some of the religious leaders of our time who were saying they get what they got. And so we as a gay community had to figure it out by ourselves. And, fortunately I survived. Of the 50 people that I used to hang around with in the mid-'80s, there are 5 of us left. 3 of us are HIV negative, and two of us are long-term survivors of HIV/AIDS. When you think about the word decimate came from actually World War II in the Battle of Stalingrad, and the idea that 10% of the population of Stalingrad was killed in that battle. When you look at what happened for me in my community in the AIDS, it was like, 95% of our group died, and it's gone. And so, my big why is to look at what are these crises facing the world from a personal level as well as a community of the world. And what I come to realize through my own inquiry is the common denominator for all these crises is the lack of human development. It's how do we as a race develop and grow and evolve as quickly as possible before we destroy each other and destroy our world that we live in. And this is just an example of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There's a number of different ways of mapping adult and human development, but this is a real simple one. And most of the world is in that lower part of the pyramid. They're still scrambling for safety and security and food and water and nutrition and education. They're still very much stuck at that lower level. And so how do we begin to evolve and grow in such a way that'll have an impact? And so my big why, and I just want to remind you what Einstein said, that no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. How do we transcend our limited thinking and our limited perspective and our limited experience so that we can be open to higher and higher levels of solution? And so my big why, ladies and gentlemen, is to raise 10% of the world's consciousness to the level of embodied enlightenment. So that's 10% of the world at the pinnacle of that pyramid, at the apex at the top. And by estimate, we're at 3%, 3.5%, maybe 4% right now. But Ken Wilber, the founder of Integral Theory, had said that if we get to 10%, it will create a tipping point in consciousness that will help solve and resolve so many of the problems that face us now. Now, we'll probably have new problems that will face us, but it'll help break the grip of chronic poverty and war and hatred and ignorance that consume so much of our human existence right now. And so just to think, there's 7.5 billion people in the world right now. So what's 10% of the world's population? Well, right now, the population of modern Europe is about 742 million. That's 10%. So to think in terms of evolving and growing just this many people around the world and the impact that that will have, that seems a little more specific and measurable and also attainable than just this whole, the whole world and how do we evolve and grow it. So because of that, I created what I call Enlightenment Cubed, Enlightenment 3, enlightening people, running enlightening businesses, using enlightening marketing. So everything that I do personally and professionally is in service to my big why. All this talk about enlightenment, working with helping people enlightenment, helping businesses use enlightened marketing, it's all to how do we uplift each other in such a way that we have a dramatic impact. It serves my big why. So I invite you to ask that question to yourself, what is your big why? And it doesn't have to be as grandiose or big as what I've outlined for you. I know people whose divine purpose, whose sole purpose in their life is to simply be a good father or a good mother. And they are extraordinary parents, and they've raised children that are extraordinary human beings. And that is significant enough to be able to master parenting and to be present to the demands and the challenges of raising children in our time. That is big why enough, if that is indeed your sole purpose. So reach deep into yourself and ask, what is your big why? And most of us play small because of fear. But whatever that big why is for you, it is essential. And when you start to talk about that in your marketing, your audience will love you. They will eat up your messaging. They will eat up the videos and the emails and the blog posts and the social social media posts, what you have to offer when you're coming from that place of congruence with your inner self and your business, your divine audience will notice, and they'll be there to support you and to help you. So, I've gone over very quickly here, a lot of around crafting your launch story, your hero's journey, the transformation, the case studies, and your big why. And you basically, start to, again, pull out phrases, listen to repeating themes, and come up with what will be the theme of your launch, and what will be the content, what will be in the videos, what will the exercises be, what are the stories that you're going to tell, your own and your clients, the transformation that you're pointing to all along the way, and your big why. What is the movement you're creating that are going to help people to achieve the extraordinary life that they want to live. And so I just want to give you a couple of examples of some product launch stories that I help clients create, and then I'm going to actually let Rich talk for a minute, see if there's anything he wants to add to this very important part of messaging. So David Nagel and his Art of Success 2 program that we designed, his the theme, the story that we designed for him was more than enough. And his belief in teaching was that most people are trapped in just enough, waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for the next sale, waiting for this place, and just trapped in not having enough. And so his whole question was, what if you could use these universal principles and flip that and have and live in a world of more than enough? For Margaret Lynch, the 7 Levels of Wealth Manifestation program, the story was doing the inner work to having the outer results. For Christine Kane, actually the new program is Becoming 360, and the story is Defying Gravity, straddling the two worlds of soul and strategy. For Lisa Sasevich in the Speak to Sell launch, the story was One Elegant Move. And then for my Alan Davidson Enlightened Tapping Meditation, the launch will be Enlightenment at Your Fingertips. It doesn't take sitting on a meditation bench for, a year or 7 years to have an awakening experience. Within 40 minutes now, you can have that. So, Rich, anything you want to add at this point to messaging and the launch story?
I think you're doing great. I was thinking about our own launch story, and I think it's something to the effect that you have a message that you want to get out to the masses, and you're not able to, and then we tie in the power of doing joint ventures as a way of spreading that message, and obviously that's why you're here right now, and launches, is basically just a massive joint venture all at once, the fastest way to get your message out there in a huge way. So, like I said, I'm kind of listening as a student here today, so just taking notes and whatnot, but keep going. I think you're doing phenomenal, Alan.
All right, great. Thank you. All right. Okay, so here's one of the other things I promised you, the 5 elements of a viral launch video. And so as you begin, think about a product launch as a movie or a Broadway musical or a novel. And, all of those things have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And you're the director. You're the one who is producing and directing and creating the story. So knowing what are the pieces of the story, what are the hero's journey you're about to invite these people to come on with you. So each pre-launch video should move the story of the launch. You need to connect it together. Then it should position you as an expert. So, and you use different parts of your own story in different videos so you don't get repetitive. So if you're a New York Times bestselling author, you certainly use that at least in one. But then, if you've been teaching something, you're a college professor, and you have tenure and you've got all this experience, you can use that. Or if you've just been a coach, I remember when I talked to Rich the very first time, he goes, I'm the coach's coach. I've coached more sessions than anybody that I know, and I coach more coaches than anyone I know. So, you want to bring that kind of authority and positioning into your videos. Always, I think you should share a client success story. Take the time to not only tell part of your story, but tell someone else's story that's had a breakthrough with your work. There's nothing that positions you as an expert better than telling the story of someone who implemented what you teach and have them succeed with it. And then, this is the throwback to this is what really makes an enlightening launch video enlightening. You give a fantastic tip or exercise or experience that will help people transform, whether they buy from you or not. You give them your very best. You give them a great, short, little exercise that you can teach and deliver an experience. Frank Kern calls this results in advance. So people really get to see wow, if he just gave this thing away for free in a video, what's the program and product going to be like? And then the fifth element in every viral launch video, and this helps make it viral, is the call to action. Now that call to action could be share this with your friends, tell a friend, post a comment below, share your experience with us. Or the call to action can be click the link below and invest now in the program or product. But you always want to be directing people to take an action on your behalf. Every email you send, you should be wanting them to click a link. Every blog post, you want them to take an action. Every video, you want them to take an action. You train people to take action. And if you do that over and over and over, you train people to take action to become part of your community, to become part of your tribe, to become customers instead of tire kickers. So call to action is just as important as everything else. Okay, so back to the 5 stages. That sort of completes what I want to share with you for Countdown to Launch, and I know we've been already going at this about 70 minutes. But I want to go through the other 4 and at least give you one tip from each of those that you can implement today. And then I'll make my invitation to you, and I'll answer any questions that you have. Happy to hang around and do that. Okay, so All Systems Go really is, what are the systems? What's the dream team that you need in place? How do you up-level your online systems? What is your tracking? And there is an art and science to having all of the team in place and the systems in place and integrated and humming nicely. And I know this is where a lot of experts get hamstrung because it can be a little overwhelming, and that's why you need a team to help you with it. But here's the tip that I have for you around launches, and it's about your merchant account. And I'll give you a little refresher. So you've got a shopping cart where people can actually buy things from you, but on the back end, it's tied to a gateway, and then and that gateway is then tied to a merchant account, and the merchant account is tied to your bank account. So that the money going from your client to your bank account has to go through 2 steps. So the thing I want to say about your merchant account is, in a launch, it is very, very easy to get your merchant account shut down. If you are wildly successful and you have a $50,000 sale in a week, or $100,000 or $200,000 sale in a week, and you're not careful, you haven't prepared your merchant account, they will shut you down and they will sit on the money for 6 or 9 months or a year before they'll disperse it to you. So a simple phone call to your merchant account will tell you will tell them, hey, this is a heads up, this is what we're doing. Now, since the banking crisis in 2008, 2009, 2010, most of us are experts in what they call the coaching industry, the transformational industry, the education industry, and the banks call that a high-risk business. So already they're looking at us in a not favorable light. So what I want to tell you about a new service that I personally have just installed in my business. It's a new gateway. It's called Easy Pay Direct. They understand launches, they understand coaching businesses, they understand the expert industry, and what they do is they actually help you set up with 2 or even 3 different merchant accounts. And during a launch, when you're running massive amounts of money through your business, they actually do what they call load balancing. They distribute it through the different merchant accounts so you don't ever come close to maxing out and getting one shut down. So that's sort of a ninja behind the scenes tip. So when you get to that place of, like I know on my merchant accounts right now, I have a $50,000 a month limit on 2 different merchant accounts. So if it looks like I'm going to be having a $100,000 a month, I have to go to them and say, listen, I'm doing this promotion, I'm doing this sale, here's the sales letter, they review the terms of service, and they'll come back and say, okay, we'll give you up to $100,000 this month. So just going and working with them and telling them will take you a long way. But I can't tell you how many launches that I have heard of and seen where the merchant account stops them, particularly if you're selling a year-long coaching program, and it's a $18,000 or $28,000 sale. They'll sit on that money. They'll either close you down or they'll sit on most of your money until you've delivered the program at the end of the year. So that's a tip for All Systems Go. All right, so liftoff is it's your offer. It's here we are. We've done all this promotion. We've built all this energy. We've got all this attention. Let's open the shopping cart. So it's like, what's your strategy for doing that? Do you have a teleseminar or a webinar, where you make a special offer, or do you just send them straight to a sales page and, okay, now we're ready to go? But your offer always has to include the transformation you promise, the product deliverables, the bonus, the price, and the risk reduction or guarantee. And this is the second thing that can ruin your launch. Jeff Walker says bad offers will ruin good launches. And, Rich, you and I have never talked about it, but I think this is where we got into trouble with your launch that we did. We did so great in the pre-launch, raising all the money for your charity, doing your list build, but when we opened the cart, the product itself was, a massive undertaking, and we could have done better in structuring that offer.
I told you not to bring that up, Alan.
Oh, lovely weather. Isn't it nice outside? It's beautiful here in Texas. No, but I mean...
No, you're right. And I was looking back, I was naive in terms of how powerful the offer had to be to make everything else work. But it was a great lesson learned. That's why we spend so much time with everyone listening right now. Like, we do this thing called the Product Creation Clinic, where we help you not only create a product, but to solidify the offer so that people actually buy it.
Right. Well, and part of it, is if you look at Monetize Your Passion, it was everything in the kitchen sink that Rich had done to build his business at that point. Write a book, create a blog, lead workshops and meditations online. You were doing everything, and you were showing people how to do everything, and it was overwhelming.
Yep.
So get the offer right. And here's a little tip is that I'm going to share with you. When you talk about your price, you always want to say, here's the full price. You ultimately want to offer a multiple price, two or three, multiples. But here's something that that PayPal has just made available, and you got to educate it. So one, if you're not using PayPal to take your money, then at least for your single pay, then it's essential because as much as 40% of your sales can go through PayPal. Particularly your international buyers are more wary of not using a service like PayPal. But PayPal now has something that's called Bill Me Later. And that means that you can get a line of credit from PayPal for 6 months with no payment and no interest rate. PayPal will pay you, the owner, the seller, immediately, but the client basically has 6 months. So, and it shows up, the opportunity to do it shows up immediately. If you put a PayPal button on your sales page as a way, or your order page as a way to pay, when they click into it, it'll give them the option for Bill Me Later, or would you like a Bill Me Later account? So as service providers ourselves, we just have to educate people as to what this is. And here's an example of how Andy Jenkins and Mike Filsaime do it. But it's something for you to consider, particularly if you've got a higher end product like a $5,000 training or an $18,000 coaching program. Here's a way to people that can pay for it 100% up front, and it's all through PayPal. So,
Alan, just we've tried PayPal Bill Me Later. It works perfectly. We love it. Highly recommend it.
Fantastic. Well, then I'm not such a hot tip after all. Never mind. Okay.
It's a hot tip. Verifying it, though, for everyone listening.
Yeah, because I had never heard of it until 2 weeks ago. I was at a mastermind. I was like, oh, my gosh, that is gold right there.
It is gold.
So, okay, so here's the next stage is boost your rockets. And it's basically so it's one thing to make your core sale, your signature sale, and that's what you're doing. But then how do you get all the possible dollars and cents out of it? Your upsells, your downsells, your cross-sells, your done for you. Do it. And, that's a whole art and science of itself. But what I want to focus on is your stick strategies. And so, it's one thing to have a product launch. Now, in the spiritual development, personal development, refunds are usually around 10% or less. When you start getting into business opportunities, internet marketing, investment sort of niches, the refund rate can get as high as 50% on a launch. So you really want to start to think, how do I keep these new buyers? How do I engage them? And so here's the tip that I have for you. It basically is over and over deliver. And so, you've got what you promise people that you're going to do for your deliverables. This is what's going to happen in week number 1 through 7, as the modules roll out. But I always ask my launch clients, how can you over-deliver each week in some small way? How can you over-deliver? And you want some of your bonuses that you promise to not go live until after the guarantee expires. Now, most merchant accounts want a 30 or 60-day guarantee. After that, they start getting nervous and they want to sit on more of your money. So, you need to think in terms of, how do I engage and keep my clients? How do I get them to consume the product? So here's one tip, is if you can get the client, if you've got an online community, if you can get them to log on, create an account and log on and see Module 1, the chances of them actually coming back and staying in the program go up 70%. So just, if someone on your team has to get on the phone and help them log on and walk them through the first module, that will go a long way in saving the sale. But here's something else that you might not think about, and this is something that Perry Belcher did in one of their big social media launches. It was a $4 million launch. It was the single most successful social media launch at the time on the internet. And they simply sent, at the 21-day mark, right before the 30-day guarantee expired, they sent everybody a tin of cookies. And it was just a thank you for being a customer. Here's some really nice gourmet cookies. The refunds on that launch were less than 10%. And they say that their very aggressive stick strategies of engaging their clients and sending them that box of cookies is what kept the refunds so low. Because people felt like they care about me and they really do want me as a customer and they want me as a student. So my question to you is, how can you, stick your sales? How can you engage your community? And then here is the the last thing, and it's a big splash landing, and that really is, you have a house launch, and then you have the big JV joint venture affiliate launches. And this is one of the mistakes that I see. So many people are running around and they don't do a thorough job of actually doing a house launch, or Jeff Walker might say a seed launch. A house launch is to your own list of subscribers. You need to set up and run a proper launch for your own list to get numbers, get opt-in numbers, get sales numbers, get engagement numbers. How long are people watching the videos? How long do people watch your webinar or stay on your teleseminar? How many people sell? You create a launch list, a sub-list within your own email group, and you track it just like you're going to a big affiliate launch. Most people are out there trying to enroll and engage partners without having hardcore numbers to promise them and show them these are the results that you're going to get. And so, they're successful at getting partners, and they do the launch, and the launch just isn't where people want it. Then there's disappointment, there's frustration, and then you burn some bridges. So that's a mistake that I see. You're trying to get partners to mail for you when you don't have specific and measurable numbers and results to actually show them that this is what's going to happen for you based on our projections. So do your house launch first, take the time, and if you are successful, I've seen people with launch, subscriber lists of 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people. If you do a really successful launch to your list, and they are indeed your divine audience, you can pay for all the investment of your launch. Now, most launches are an investment of anywhere between $15,000 and $50,000, depending on how many of the moving parts, how big is the team, how expensive is the video editing. They're expensive. But if you do it right, your house launch will pay for your basic investment for strategy and team and cost, so that when you then have your hardcore numbers, you go out to your JV launch, and then all of a sudden what you make on your JV launch for yourself is profit minus what you pay for your partners. So in the perfect world, cover your expenses in the house launch, get your numbers, and then go out and do a JV launch and then really crush it. So here are the 3 assets that you have to have for a launch in Big Al's book. You've got to have a product with some sales numbers. You've got to prove that there's a demand, that people want your program. Now, I've certainly done some launches with people who come and say, listen, I've sold, variation number 1 of this program, but this is the new and improved. I'm rebranding it. It's got a new name, but it's got the core modules. It's got the core exercises, but I've added, 3 new or 4 new modules to it. So long as you've got some basic numbers of a program that you have sold that are closely related to what you're selling now, and you've got case studies based on those exercises, then, you can create a house launch for sure. There's no doubt about that. But to do a proper professional product launch, you've got to have a product with sales. You've got to have those success stories, highly dramatic success stories, and then a willingness to invest in a strategy and a team. And if you've got those 3 things, then there's no reason in the world that you can't have an amazingly successful launch. And the last thing I want to say, and I know Rich and Robin and I learned this the hard way, that product launches are not for sissies. They're a tremendous amount of work. There's so much effort. It's so time-consuming and energy-consuming. I remember at the end of Rich's launch, you and I were both exhausted, and I'm sure
I went to Hawaii.
yeah, he's like, okay, bye, I gotta go.
By the way, write that line down. That's a great subject line, Alan. Product launches are not for sissies.
Well, and this from the gay man in the crowd here, so I feel like I can get away with that. But listen, they're a lot of money, they're a lot of work, They're a tremendous amount of energy and attention. And, you know, I've done 52 of the damn things. And I'm like, you know, I've given up my life as a masochist. I'm not managing launches anymore, but I love doing this high-level strategy and design work for people. But the benefits are so amazing because you really do have phenomenal sales. I mean, you know, Rich has talked about the success he's had. What would a promotion of 2 or 3 weeks that resulted in $500,000 in sales, what would that mean for your life and your business? You know, if you were able to grow your email list by 25,000 or 35,000 or 55,000 people because of the launch, and then add, you know, a couple of thousand new customers, paying customers to that, what if you had happy affiliate partners that were ready to say, like, man, I made a bunch of money mailing for you, and my people loved your content. They love your program. They're thanking me for the transformation they're having. They love me because I introduced them to you. If you have partners that are saying that, I made money and my clients love you, then they're going to line up to support you. And with your new and authority and positioning and buzz, product launches become worth it all of a sudden. And then you say, well, maybe I can do 2 a year. And then I could go to Hawaii, take a page from Rich's book. Okay, so that's it for the free training, and I want to thank you. It really has been, we're right at 90 minutes now, so thank you for your time and your attention. I do have a very short invitation for you from here. I'm actually running an Enlighten launch school. It's 3 days in Texas. It's Houston. It's September 24th, 25th, and 26th. That's a Wednesday, Thursday, and a Friday. If you think you would like me to help you design your launch from A to Z, from the very beginning high-level strategy to your launch content, to your shopping cart strategy, to your offer, if you would like me to help you with that, then I invite you to go to tinyurl.com/launch-school, and that'll show you everything that we're going to cover in those 3 days. And it is limited to, actually there's only 10 seats left. It's limited to 12 people. You know, if you're interested, you think it speaks to you, then, you know, go fill out the application, apply for a one-on-one strategy session with you. I want to make sure you've got the assets that you need, and if you are a good fit for the launch school, then I'll make an invitation to you, and we'll talk about the investment then.
Read the name, the URL again.
It's tinyurl.com/launch-school. So that's it. That's my invitation. And I just want to
sell, Alan.
I know it.
You have a hard bargain.
Well, I mean, you know, the school's not for everybody, just like product launches aren't for everybody. But if you, the one thing I do want to say is that in September 24th, 25th, and 26th, John Walker, my friend and my mentor, is actually going to be there. He's my guest. And so not only do you have me to help you with your launch, but you're going to have John Walker, who will be there to help you strategize and get the most out of your launch. So you have 2 amazing, brilliant product launch marketing minds and personalities, and you know, Jeff brags that, you know, the product launch formula has raised over you know, $500 million now for his students and clients, and John Walker was right there in the trenches with him, working with and designing all those launches. So he's going to be there in September with me, and you have a chance to work with both of us. So it's an incredible opportunity. So that's it. That's everything I've got for you. It's that simple. I'd love to have you come to Houston, and thank you very much for your time and your attention and hanging out with us. Rich, I'm really grateful to you for introducing me to all your folks here. And if you've got any questions, you can submit some questions. Rich, I don't know if you want to hang around for them.
Sure, I can hang out for a little while.
Okay.
Yeah,
great.
let me just, I'll share a quick thought. I want to thank you for sharing. you gave so much information, like a ton. Most webinars like this are way more pitch heavy and light on content, and this was the exact opposite, which I totally appreciate. I think, like you said, launches are not for everyone. However, Milana and I, our intention is that everyone in our community at some point will do a large launch. There's so many, as stressful as they can be, there's so many benefits. There's a reason we keep launching, because they're very powerful. And Alan's the best. So I would highly recommend you take him up on the offer of the session with him. There's only 10 slots left, as you said, in Houston. And I would love it if 10 of you listening right now take those 10 slots. I think it'll be enlightening for sure, and a very good thing. And it'll be fun. Alan's, you can see, he's straightforward, no fluff, and he knows what he's doing. So highly recommend that. And yeah, I can hang out for a little while. If anyone has any questions, please.
Okay, great. Hey, and I just want to say, you know, somebody's already posted, hey, the URL's not working. And, you know, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's this bizarre thing happening today. We were going to launch Margaret Lynch's new Tapping into Wealth coaching certification program today, and we had to postpone it because 3 of the major internet providers in the United States are not being able to relay links or web pages. And so I know.
I just went to the page and it oh wait, yeah, it says not found.
Yeah, so there's this.
Is that why Milana sent me an email and I got it 42 times?
Yeah, it could be that she's just very eager for you to reply to her.
So.
I don't know. But there's something really bizarre happening with the internet today. So we actually had to postpone Margaret's launch until this gets resolved. But you know, our tech guru Tim on the back end is just saying that there's about 30% of the internet that is not able to visit web pages. So anyway, so I invite you to come back to tinyurl.com/school. So let's see, let's look at some of the questions we've got here. Looks like Anthony says, thanks for the offer for the slides. Awesome, you're welcome. Let's see. What if you were just starting and don't have clients to give proof? Rich, I'm going to let you take that one, and I'll piggyback on what you have to say on that one.
It's a great question. I believe if I were in that situation and I had a program or something, I would probably give it away to my 10 closest friends, or I'd find 10 people on Facebook that I know, or just anywhere, give it away, run them through it, and boom, there's your testimonials. I've actually suggested that many times, and it always works. You agree?
Right. Well, the only thing I would say is I would offer it to them for $1.
No, fine.
Well, I mean, because you want to be able to say that they're customers.
Okay.
You know, so they make some investment. You know,
actually,
I mean,
I did that. I had a client do that, and he did this 12-week program, and what we had him do was he charged $50, and he donated all the money to charity. So they paid, they were clients, and he did good with the money. It was a win-win all around.
I actually love that idea even better. Is, you know,
there you go.
So, you know, sell it for $50 or sell it for $97 and give 100% of it to charity, but then teach your 12 people, and that then, you know, you track the results they get, and then you have your case studies. Great. Excellent question. Yes. Oh, and a comment about the bill me later. Yes, unfortunately that is for U.S. residents only.
Oh, yeah. No good in Canada.
Yeah, I meant to say that and forgot. But yes, so and there's a way actually for you ninja coders on the back end. You know, when people come to visit your IP address, you can tell if they're from the United States or not. And the information on the sales page about the bill me later can appear or disappear depending on the IP address and the coding. So for those of you inner geeks, techno geeks that like that sort of stuff, have at it. So let's see, I think it's Bob who says, it's an incredible presentation and so much value and real enlightenment. Thank you, Rich and Milana. Well, you're absolutely welcome, Bob, and pleased to be here and be of service for you and the community. So you're welcome. And you'll have this for the archives too. Awesome content, extremely rich program, the real deal. All right. Well, I can't tell you how many times I've been called real.
Real one.
Well, darling, that's a whole
Real Paul.
nother webinar, and I'll keep you posted on that one.
All right.
How do we get the slides? What I'll do is I'm going to convert this to a video and upload it to YouTube. And tomorrow I'll mail out the link to the replay, and the link to download the slides will be there as well. So you'll get them tomorrow. I think it's David, it looks like, maybe asked this question. The URL's not working. We got that. And that's all the questions. If you've got anything else that you want to comment or say or ask, you have two fabulous marketing minds at your disposal for the next couple of minutes. It would be a shame to waste it. If you've got a question, please do ask it. And Rich and I will do our best to scratch your itch. Marketing itch. We'll leave it at that.
Yes.
Okay, well, it doesn't look like there are any more questions coming in, so thank you so much, everybody. Rich, it's a pleasure and privilege, really, to be with you for this time. Just love you so much, and I'm so grateful to our friendship. And, you know, our friendship was really forged in the trenches, ladies and gentlemen. You know, when I did Rich's launch, it was the three of us. We were the team. It was me and Robin and Rich. And, you know, I was writing copy and doing design work and even editing videos, and you know, man, it was crazy. And the fact that we have a friendship after it speaks to the volume.
It does.
To the kind of people we are, and I'm so grateful that we've done that. So awesome. Let's see here. Wait. Do I have any other products outside the live event? I have my line of Enlightened Tapping meditation programs. Most of my programs are, you know, in the personal transformational space. That's where my real passion is. But I just happen to be really good at product launches. So my 3-day trainings I have a 3-day funnel school and I have a 3-day launch school to help people at the different levels of their business. And so that really is my offering in the entrepreneurial space outside of my one-on-one VIP packages. So sort of this is a lower entry way for you to be able to work with me without having to come up with that 24K. So, you know, it's sort of me giving back in a certain way. So that's what I've got so far. What's that? I can't see who this is from, but it's very nice. Let's see. Oh, it's
from me.
Yeah. No, it's from Bob. The world is a better place to have you with us, and our thoughts for those friends who have passed before you. Well, thank you very much. That's lovely, Bob. I've been thinking a lot.
Is that Bob Cheatham that said that?
It was Bob Cheatham that said that.
That sounds like something he would say. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah. And Dan LaFave said something about or programs. I'm not sure what he meant by that. So, do I have other products in live event? Okay, got it. Yeah, I think we answered that. Okay, great. Hey, so that's it, everybody. Thank you for your time, your attention, your presence. I'm so grateful for that. I hope that what I shared with you is helpful for you and begins to spark your imagination for your own product launch and building the inner courage and strength and stamina to have one, not to mention the business that you have to really take it and run with it. If you have any interest in coming and working with me and John Walker deeper, would love to have you come and do a strategy one-on-one with me. We'll really go over your business, your assets, and make sure you're a good match. And I promise to be honest with you, yay or nay. So just again, the URL, tinyurl.com/launch-school. So Rich, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, man. Thanks for everybody for being here. And if you can't get on that website now, please check later. And I think you're going to send out the replay of this to everybody, if I understand correctly, too. Is that right?
I'm going to send out the replay, and so you'll have a link to go and visit my website. There'll be a link to the sales page for the school and where you can sign up for your strategy session. And also you'll be able to download the slides. So it'll all be there, and I'll email it. I'll wait to email to make sure that the Internet is back up and functioning correctly.
There you go. Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Alan, love you. You're the best.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Bye, Rich. Bye-bye.
Talk to everybody soon. Bye. Thank you.